Hello, welcome to day 9. Today we are continuing with our C major scale. We're learning another song by ear. We're starting a new melody, and we have one day left with Happy Birthday that we're practicing together. And then as always, we have our rhythm and reading drills. Be sure to grab your workbook in the link below and meet me at the piano. We're continuing with C major. We're still playing hands together. We're going to speed things up a little bit, and then tomorrow we'll be starting a new scale. So make sure that you take advantage of today. And as always, maybe practice each hand alone once before we dive right in, just because we are going to be going faster and you want to make sure that you have all of your fingerings really ironed out. And one more thing to keep in mind when you're playing your scales. I think sometimes I repeat the C at the top and sometimes I just head back down. It actually doesn't matter. It's kind of a habit thing, whatever you're more comfortable with. In the long run, it's probably a little bit more typical to not repeat that note, but when you're starting out, it really doesn't matter. We do see both patterns in music, so feel free to choose whichever you want. Today, I won't be repeating the C at the top. 1, 2, ready, go. Our song that we're learning today by ear is actually foreshadowing our scale for tomorrow. Today we're doing Rain, Rain, Go Away. In case you aren't familiar with it, it's this rain, rain, go away, come again another day. It's short and sweet, but it is a little bit jumpy, so don't underestimate it here. So we're starting again on C. And it really doesn't have very many notes. So let's just kind of play the first note with the right hand and the next note with the left hand. Go ahead and try to find the patterns on your own, and then we'll meet back right here. So we're starting on C. We have rain, rain, go away. So lots of back and forth between the two same notes. Rain, rain, go away, come again another day. So you need to find a new jump there. Come again another day. It's really good practice for hearing the difference between thirds and fourths. Most of it is this third back and forth, and then we have this 1/4 mixed in there. You can of course play that with one hand as well. Maybe give it a try with the left hand alone so that the poor left hand isn't always getting neglected. Our rhythm drills for today are pretty straightforward. Both are in 4/4 time, a lot of quarter notes, a lot of eighth notes. Let's just get going. So this one's quite short. It's just 2 measures long. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And then here, as always, we have something that's going to help us get ready for one of our new songs. So if you find these helpful when you're learning the songs, you might want to do it a couple of times. And then right after this, we'll dive right into the piece. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Our new melody for today is What Shall We Do with a Drunken Sailor? It's a fun little sea shanty. This is also jumping around a little bit. We do have some pretty clear patterns. We're always keeping our eye open for those. And as always, we're starting today hands separately, putting it hands together tomorrow. So today we're walking through the patterns, the hands alone, and fingerings and rhythms. And then tomorrow we're putting everything back hands together. So let's start with our left hand for a change. We always start with the right hand. You'll notice that the left hand is pretty straightforward. This is why I encouraged you to learn your song by ear today with just the left hand, because the left hand needs something fun to do. It's lots of fifths moving around and lots of whole notes. And that's just something that we're going to keep seeing in our left hand for a while. So our first notes here are actually none of our landmark notes, but we are right next to one of our landmark notes. Our newest landmark note in the bass clef is this C, and we're starting with our 5th finger right next to that on D. And I already told you that's a 5th, and a 5th from D is of course A. So we have that. And while I do always encourage you to break things into chunks, I would say that this is one of the occasions where you can just go ahead and read the left hand all the way through, because we have fifths almost the entire time. They're really just sliding back and forth between 2 notes. We have a couple of half notes mixed in into the next to last measure, and that's it. So it's pretty manageable to work through. Let's just go ahead and read through it once together. Then you can practice it as many times as you need to feel comfortable, and then we'll get to the right hand. So 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, slide down. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, slide back. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. F2, G2. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the right hand. The right hand has a lot more going on than the left hand, so we will break it into smaller chunks. Let's actually start with just the first 2 measures here. And of course, as usual, we had this in our rhythm drill already, so the rhythm is pretty familiar. You're maybe also already familiar with the song, and we'll just walk through things step by step. So we're starting right above our landmark G. We're starting on A with the 5th finger. And our rhythm is 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. So the first entire measure is just A, so that's pretty straightforward. And then we have a jump of a 5th. We jump from the A down to D, skip up to F, skip up to A. So let's go just that far. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Pretty manageable, right? It's not the most comfortable thing to be repeating the 5th note on those A's over and over again. You do have options. You could start with your 3rd finger, for example, and then you just have to kind of hop over with your thumb to the D. That does work, but it's also not bad to give the 5th finger a chance to practice. And that's also a great opportunity to work on using the arm and the wrist to really support the finger while it's playing those repeated notes. You don't have to be attacking the A with the 5th finger really actively every single time. You can really do a lot of dropping from the arm and wrist, and that keeps things fairly straightforward for you. Long term, we're going to be talking a lot more about technique, maybe not so much within this 14-day challenge, just because I think the technique is something best addressed kind of bit by bit. It's nice to not worry about micromanaging things in the early stages. I like to take more of a Mr. Miyagi sort of approach. I model the things that you need. We're working a lot of the things that you need in without you necessarily consciously realizing it, because there's so much to think about when we're playing the piano, especially if you're a brand new beginner. There's just so much. We have the keys, and which key do we need, and which rhythms do we need, and which notes do we have in the piece, and how do I find them, and what is our fingering, and there are just so many details that if we add really complex technical elements on top of that, I think it's really distracting. Long story short, we will keep working on small details throughout the challenge. I'll keep mentioning things like this as we go, and know that we are laying a solid foundation. We're practicing things in the right way, and you're going to develop these skills in a really organic way over time. Okay, I'm off my soapbox. We're moving forward with the piece. So that was the first 2 measures. Now, if you take a look at the next 2 measures, if you really analyze everything, we have exactly the same intervals at the same time. We have an entire measure with the same rhythm, all repeating on one note. We jump down a 5th, we jump up a 3rd, we jump up a 3rd. And that's exactly what we had in the first 2 measures, except instead of starting on D and A, we're sliding over and we're starting on G and C. So our intervals are the same, but our fingering is not. We're leaving the 5th finger kind of hanging out over here on A, because we're going to need to jump up back to that A immediately at the start of the next row and the start of the next measure. And 2 and 4 are already on E and G, what we had before, and just the thumb has to slide over. If you really don't like this fingering after trying it a couple of times, switch over with the 5th finger and do it that way. But I do have really good reasons for giving it to you this way. Just be sure that you give it a fair shot, and then if it really doesn't sit right with you, then go ahead and switch to this 5-1-3-5. So let's give it a try. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Great. Now let's put those two chunks together. So let's play the entire first row. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the next row starts right away with A. So that's why I'm encouraging you to choose this fingering. Go ahead and give that a couple more tries just so that the fingering really settles in, that you have all of the notes worked out, the rhythms are really working well for you, and then let's move forward. One trick here for practicing so that you don't have any trouble with transitions would be to start with the 4th measure in order to practice the 5th and 6th. So that you're used to this fingering, you're used to working everything out. For now, I'm going to show you just measures 5 and 6, and then we'll go back and pick up measure 4 alongside those. So we're starting with 5 on A, and then we're hopping over to 1 on A because we need more notes. We've run out of fingers, we need to be up here, but our hand is over here. One way to fix that is we have 5 on the first beat, and then we just hop onto the thumb on the next one. So when you're playing that, you don't need to hold the quarter note for a really long time. Just play it, release it, move over. And then after that, the pattern's really straightforward. It's just steps. 2, 3, 4. And then for the next 2 measures, we have different patterns. Let's walk through that one more time, but this time let's go from the measure before. So we're starting in measure 4. We have G, C, E, C, A. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, hop over, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. How did that go? I know it's a weird spot to start. It's maybe a little unusual with all this jumping action going on that you maybe haven't dealt with before. So do hit pause, do that several more times now so that it really settles in, and then let's move forward. So then we're coming from 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we have C, we have 2 sets of skips. We have C, A, and then we're crossing over with the 4th finger, similar to when we cross over with the 3rd finger in our scales. Now we're going to do that with the 4th finger. 4, 2, and then the thumb lands nicely on our D. So now let's do that together a few times. Let's start on our C here. 1, 2, ready, go. C, A, 4 comes to G, E, D, 2, D, 2. Then let's do the whole second row. So starting with this A and our jumping story from 5 to 1. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 4th comes over. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I told you the golden standard of practicing here would be to practice the transition from the 4th row. So let's start from the 4th measure, from this first row. So 4 on G, we're starting with measure 4. 1, 2, ready, go. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Like we discussed yesterday, we have 2 new landmark notes. We have the C that's in the middle of the bass clef, 1 octave below middle C, and the C in the middle of the treble clef, 1 octave above middle C. If you want more practice with quizzes like this, you can also go over to my Instagram. There I have a lot of different reels about reading where it's just quizzing basically. It shows you the notes, you name them, and then the answer pops up, and you're just trying to beat the clock. Basically like we do here, it's just more chances to practice. So there we have the notes on the landmark notes, and let's start a little quiz. So We have F, C, middle C, treble C, G, bass C, treble C, G, F, treble C, bass C. As we move forward, just like we talked about yesterday, we're not just looking for individual notes anymore. It's if you have any hesitation in recognizing notes and in identifying them, do keep quizzing yourself with that, and we will have that every now and then. But moving forward, we're going to be looking more and more at patterns and how to start reading things in a group. So here we have 4 notes. We see that we're starting on our bass clef C. This is a really, really common pattern. The pattern is actually called Alberti bass, and it's especially in like the classical period, Mozart, Haydn, Beethoven, this is everywhere. You'll see this everywhere in your pieces. But we do want to be able to recognize the notes pretty quickly. So we have C, up a fifth to G, down a third to E, and back up to G. And we haven't started talking about chords yet. That's coming over the next few days. We're going to start talking a little bit more about the chords. These improvisations that we did the first few days of the challenge, if you remember, this is the exact same type of thing. We had these patterns that we were using, and those patterns were actually all chords. So here it's actually a C major chord, C, G, E, G, and taking the notes of a chord and turning them into a pattern is something that we're going to see a lot. So once you start recognizing these when you're reading, you've hit the sweet spot. You're well on your way. Here, it's kind of a similar thing. It's again a chord. It's 3 different notes. One of them repeats. We're starting on our landmark G in the treble clef, up a third, back down, and then up a fifth, which means that our notes are G, B, G, D. Same type of thing. That's also a chord. That's also one of the chords that we learned in the C major improvisation that we were doing. And that would be a G major chord if you're really interested in what that is. Here, again, a chord-based pattern. We're starting on our F in the bass clef. We jump up to middle C, skip down to A, skip down to F. And that, if you smush all of the notes together, is an F major chord. But of course, not every pattern is a chord. They're often related to the chords or based around the main notes of a chord. But here, for example, we see that we have, again, 4 notes. All of these, you might be noticing that all the patterns are 4 notes that we're looking at right now. And we have a starting note, up a step, back, and up a skip. G, A, G, B. Here, we're starting again on a landmark note. We have G, down, down, skip to C. G, F, E, C. Here we have a similar pattern, but we've scrambled it up a little bit. We're starting on a C. We have our bass C. Then we have G, F, E. Last but not least, we have Happy Birthday. So this is the last day that we're practicing this together. This is probably something that you're going to play forever. Out of all of the things that we're learning in this challenge, this is probably the one that you can get the most mileage out of, just because it's always cool to be able to sit down and play Happy Birthday on somebody's birthday, right? I'm not going to do a lot of in-detail practice with you today. You've learned the drill, you know what to do. You're going to review each hand alone, you're going to break it up into chunks, you're going to go nice and slow. If you hit any roadblocks, you're going to problem solve and figure out, okay, what's going wrong? Why is it going wrong? How can I fix it? How can I practice so that I can make sure that I'm playing it accurately? And you know how to do all of those things. So today we're just going to play through it once together and we'll call it a day. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. You've made it through 9 days of this challenge. We just have a handful of days left, literally a handful. We have 5 days left. And I'm so proud of you for embarking on this journey, for sticking with it. And I hope you're really enjoying all of the things that we're learning. If you do end up playing Happy Birthday for someone, please do film it and tag me. I would love to see how things from this challenge really take on a life of their own and are things that you do incorporate into your daily life. I would really be so happy to see that. So until tomorrow, happy practice.